If you've been around as long as I have, sometimes you get told information. So someone let it be known to me that despite the impact of that very powerful Mr. Bates versus the Post Office, the docudrama almost at ITV, award-winning, I should say, the government was still handing out multi-million-pound contracts to Fujitsu, the author of that shocking Horizon programme. I asked my LBC colleague Henry Ryder to investigate. He joins me now with the exclusive report. Henry.
Nick, it was yesterday on your programme that you asked the Minister for the Cabinet Office, Nick Thomas-Symonds, a pretty direct question.
Can you give me assurance there's no other government contracts handed out to Fujitsu as a result of this?
Well, with regard to Fujitsu, I mean, that's a matter for procurement. I know they look at those those matters are looked at extremely carefully.
Well, you are the Paymaster General. Can you assure me that there's no other contracts with Fujitsu? Well, you're a fairly senior member of the government, Mr. Thomas-Symonds, aren't you? You're also the Minister for European Union Relations. I just want to make sure that there are no new contracts going the way of Fujitsu.
Well, I think in terms of we have to... the procurement has a particular legal framework around it that we have to deal with. It's not my direct responsibility, by the way.
So there could still be contracts going the way of Fujitsu?
Well, look, all I can say is there is a particular legal framework we have to follow in terms of procurement.
Now, Fujitsu, of course, the controversial Japanese tech firm behind the faulty Post Office Horizon IT system, a company who said themselves they would pause bidding for new contracts and have imposed restrictions on themselves with regards to bidding government contracts. And we can reveal today that Fujitsu have been awarded substantial government contracts. In total, the firm has been awarded £500 million since the 1st of January 2024. Now, that particular date was the day that this came out.
The computer system Post Office spent an arm and a leg on is faulty.
No one else has ever reported any problems with Horizon. No one.
You're responsible for the loss.
I haven't got that money, and I don't know where it's gone.
Now, since Mr Bates versus the Post Office, a combined £510,704,000 was awarded by government bodies or the government themselves. More than half of that on HMRC, more than £7 million on Ministry of Defence contracts, including for the provision of 50 specialist laptops, while the Home Office also have recently issued contracts with the value of £28 million in that time, including on what they describe as hardware provisions. Now, I spoke with Lord Arbuthnot, the Tory peer who sits on the Horizon Compensation Advisory Board. He told me that our findings were alarming.
What I want to understand is why the government is continuing to treat Fujitsu as an acceptable partner given their behaviour over the sub-postmasters. They should not be continuing to do business with this company. It sounds to me as though the government feels it's over a barrel with Fujitsu, and that's not an acceptable position for the government to be in.
Now, in response, a Fujitsu spokesperson told us we continue to work with the UK government to ensure we adhere to the voluntary restrictions we put in place with regards to the bidding of new contracts. A government spokesperson said we've been clear that those responsible for the Horizon IT scandal must be held to account. They add that Fujitsu has committed to withdraw from bidding contracts with new government customers until the inquiry concludes. But Nick, I mean, among the £500 million, there's also £63 million that the Post Office has awarded to Fujitsu. That's a one-year extension to the Horizon Services Agreement for IT services. I think that might be a more sort of legacy thing, but the idea of handing over £63 million from the Post Office to Fujitsu, I think, will stick in the craw of many people. Indeed, probably why as well you challenged the Defence Secretary, John Healey, as I referenced earlier, about those MOD contracts.
Because the contracts that we, as Defence, have with Fujitsu are based on an assessment of what Fujitsu can provide for defence, provide for our forces.
There's no other supply?
And we are making sure that what they supply at taxpayers' expense to reinforce our forces or our defence systems is good value for money, and where it is, we'll continue to consider using them.
But this is a company that we now learn is possibly responsible for 13 people taking their lives, 59 others considering it, and they're rewarded with the award of 5 more contracts since 2024. There's no other supplier out there, Secretary of State?
They're the supplier that is best able to meet the terms of the contract.
Well, what sort of look is that, do you imagine?
So, as a government, we have to be able to deal with many fronts at once. My job as Defence Secretary
I hear
is
you,
to
sir,
deal...
but imagine your mother or father took their life as a result of the Fujitsu Horizon programme, and you now hear that this government has given £500 million in contracts since 2024. How does that sit?
I think and I've dealt as a local MP with some of the postmasters and mistresses and their families that have been hit by this scandal. The one thing that they want is justice. The second thing they want is proper compensation. And as a government, we're determined to get that up in place and speed that up, because the payments have not been fast enough.
A defence of sorts from Defence Secretary John Healey. Let's turn to Jo Hamilton. Now, while no one campaigner should be singled out over any other, she is probably one of the most high-profile former sub-postmistress who, despite remortgaging her home, was falsely prosecuted for a shortfall of accounts of £36,000 and features prominently in the award-winning docudrama that we've mentioned. Jo Hamilton joins me now. Good to have you on. So LBC discovers the amount of money still being handed out by previous and the current government. Your reaction, Jo? Morning.
Morning. Well, I'm not very often speechless, but honestly, it's like the government are endorsing what they've done to keep using them, you know. And why can't they say, well, okay, if you want to renew your contract, you've got to pay up, because they should be contributing to this scandal. It really is dreadful.
What do you think the other campaigners who you're so close to, how do you think they'll react as the news spreads later today, Jo?
Well, they'll be as angry as I am, you know, because it's like them saying, well, yeah, that was a bit naughty, but, you know, we'll carry on using you, don't worry. It's just awful.
Privileged to speak to you today. I spoke with Wendy Buffrey yesterday, who you know well, who told me, I don't know if you're aware of it, you saved her life. She was sitting on a hill where she used to go as a schoolgirl because she was again wrongly caught up in this. She had the pills in her hand. She was ready to attempt to take her life, and the mobile phone rang, and it was you. Were you aware of that, Jo?
I was afterwards. I wasn't aware at the time, but she did tell me afterwards that that's what she had gone to do. So, yeah, I didn't know at the time. But I know she was at rock bottom. And
you saved her life.
Well, yeah, it's just what I do. If Alan used to flag people up who were
Alan Bates,
a bit wobbly, I'd, you know, help, and that's all you can do really, because what else could we do? None of us had any money to help, but we could just be there emotionally. I could be there for her, and that's it's heartwarming, isn't it? I think, wow.
Yeah, well, it certainly stopped me in my tracks, and it takes quite a lot for that to happen. Jo, what do you take from the Oval? I haven't spoken to you, obviously. What do you take from events at the Oval?
I'm pleased that Sir Win put certain things in there, and he seems, he seems to have, but quite how we're still trying to talk about what full and fair, or define what full and fair is beyond me, because it's a big fluffy term, isn't it, that they can hide behind, you know, full and fair redress at speed. But I think the fact that he's brought this report out and the next one is coming down the tracks puts pressure on the government, and he wants them to reply to him by the 10th of October. So he's given them deadlines, and he knows, they know that there's another report coming out. So they are under pressure. But God, how many times have I heard the word at speed, at pace? You know, I mean, how many years have we been moaning, and then the drama accelerated things, and everyone rushed around and said, oh yeah, we're going to do this, that and everything else. But the fact is, since Labour took over, and I had high hopes the administration change would actually accelerate things, but it hasn't. If anything, it's made it worse.
Really? You think it's actually slowed down under the new administration, Jo?
Yeah, I mean,
Gosh.
It's easy for them to say they've paid billions, they paid £1 billion to 7,000 sub-postmasters, but part of the scheme, when we settled, part of it, the conditions were that they would pay anyone who'd had a shortfall, which meant, like, if you'd had a shortfall of even, say, £5,000, you could come forward, they'd give you £5,000, tick the box. So thousands of people came forward, which gives them the power to stand up and say, we've paid thousands of postmasters billions of pounds. And it's like, oh, shut up. Seriously.
It's a privilege. Sorry, finish your point. No, I do. Sorry, Joe. Finish the point you wanted to make.
Yeah, you just get fed up hearing the same toot coming out of the minister's mouth.